Welcome to the 28mm build. My name's Jeff Perryman, and today I thought we would do a tutorial on how I paint wood to make it look like it's been weathered and aged by the sun and by the rain over the years. And to help us do that, I have this little hunter's cabin. Now I built this specifically for this tutorial, and just like my other buildings, it's designed to come apart and come up off its base so that you can use it for different gaming needs. And don't worry, I'll show you how to build this building in another tutorial. It's a real simple build. It's not that difficult, and you could probably do it in about an afternoon or so. But for now, it's just going to show us how we're going to paint old wood. So let's get started, shall we? So the first thing that I need to do whenever I'm getting ready to paint a wooden structure is I'm going to go ahead and try to bring out the grain and make it pop. For that, I use a steel brush, either steel or brass. It really doesn't matter. It's just a matter of personal preferences. I will go between the two because sometimes I feel like that the steel one is a little bit stiffer and the brass one's a little bit softer, and really depending on what I'm trying to accomplish, I'll use either or. Okay, so we're back, and this is an example of where we're going to be taking that shack. We're going to try to age the wood probably a little bit more than this. This was achieved by creating a much lighter color than what I wanted to begin with, and then through the washes and things I use, it kind of darkens. Now this is very aged and faded, but you can also use the same technique to get a really nice rich oak stained, like the barrels that we traditionally build, as well as a nice table and floor. But this is kind of the goal. The door is going to get chewed up on the bottom very much like I've done here. We're going to do all this kind of detailing with the rusty nail holes and everything in that cabin. But this is ultimately where we're going to be going. And to get to this point, what I do is I start with a much lighter color. This is called Fawn by Deco Art. And you can get this paint at any craft store. In fact, I think this is what the updated bottle looks like. I think this is a much older bottle than this, and I know I've just bought this recently. I got these at Hobby Lobby. You can probably get them at Joann's, Hobby Lobbies, Michael's here in the United States. Any craft store that you probably go to will have these paints, and they're much more economical than our traditional paints. It's actually cheaper to paint buildings than it is miniatures sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to start with this fawn color, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit of raw, whoops, that's black, a little bit of raw umber, and just a very small touch of burnt sienna, and then I'm going to mellow it all out and kind of lighten it with this gray. So I'll be using, let's say, 5 parts, 2 parts, 1 part, 3 parts. I'm going to eyeball it, but just kind of show you my really old yucky paint tray, which I only clean once in a blue moon. It's kind of shiny. This is the base color that we're kind of going for, which is not far from what it's going to look like when it's bleached up. But when I was doing the barn, this got much darker. In fact, it almost got this color right here when I was done with my washes. But today we're going to go with a much more bleached look. I want to get a lot of moss and grunge and grime on the cabin today. So I'm going to kind of mix up the mixture I said, but I'm going to eyeball it. I'm probably going to go with a slightly lighter mixture than before. So let me get that started. Okay, so this really yucky light mud color that I've mixed up is going to be our base color. Now I'm going to put a little bit of this probably over here because we're not going to use that one that much. And I'm going to water it down till it's almost a wash in itself, but not quite. I want it just a hair thicker. I want it airbrush thickness. So whenever you're mixing your own paints for airbrushing, you want them to be about the consistency of milk or thereabouts, just kind of playing around with it. So I'm going to start with a door because that's the simplest piece to work with. And all I'm doing, oops, my camera work is horrible again, I apologize. All I'm doing is I'm just going to slap this on here. I might even use some water and thin this out even more because this is not as thin as I wanted it. I really want it to be more of a stain than an opaque because I kind of want the wood to pop a little more on this. Now you can go opaque, there's nothing wrong with that. I find that when I go a little too opaque, I lose some of the variations of the natural wood. So that's basically what I'm going for here, and I'm just going to plop that down. It doesn't matter if it's messy. And I'm going to do the same to these roof joists. I'm actually going to put a little more water in here, just some straight water. And I'm just kind of, just muddy that up so it's more of a stain. This is, let's see it on the camera here. Get a little more in here. And I'm just going to play around with this until I get what I want. And like I said, it doesn't matter if this is perfect. Now, you can see how wet I'm working here. Well, maybe you can't. There we go. You can see how wet I'm working here. There is a danger to this, especially on this piece I'm working on right now. There is so little contact because most of the structure of this piece is going to be held together by the shingles that we're going to make and glue on later. I think I'm going to go with either a slate or a terracotta for the shingles on this. We'll see how I feel. Now, you'll notice this is not much darker than the natural wood, but it does have an effect when I start putting the washes. I will start with a wash of black, by the way. That's our next step, is to just kind of put washes on the back. But you have to be very, very careful on thin pieces like this. I got off track there. Because if you get too wet, this water will loosen the glue. And I may not be able to complete this section today because it's usually a good idea after you hit this. The wood's going to swell and do all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. And I'm not in camera, and I apologize for not doing this more on screen, but you're going to want that glue to kind of dry again. So I'm going to hit everything, and I'm going to come back tomorrow, and we will see where we're at. We might be able to play with the door a little bit, because I've got to do really naughty things to that door. Let's see if I can get this more in frame. I'm getting water, which is why you see me reaching across there. Let's see if I can do this in frame here. Let's get a little closer and just kind of drag a slightly darker color. Yes, I mixed up way too much. I always do, but that's okay. And I'm applying water as I see, some areas I want opaque. Some areas I want to be fairly translucent. Just kind of get in here. I'm just going to paint the rest of this and I'll come back. All right, there's everything with kind of the base coat, the base stain and everything. And it makes a right proper mess, as you can see. It's really wet. It's dripped all over the place over here. and it's probably soaked in and started loosening the glue. So after you get to this point, try to set it aside someplace and don't handle it that much. I've had panels from my barn fall completely apart on me at this point that were securely glued, and I thought we're not going to be a problem. But this door, it's got some love that I want to give to it. Like I said, I want to tear up the bottoms. And the best way to do that is when this is all wet. So I am running the risk of having that glue come completely undone on me. Let's see if I can get this better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear up the bottom of this here and just kind of hold it, and then I'm taking my X-Acto knife and I'm just kind of dragging it and tearing into that wood fiber, but I'm going along with the grain, and I'm just kind of, let's tell a story. I feel like frickin' Bob Ross every time I say let's tell a story. But he kind of had the right idea. You want to think about, you know, this door is going to open from this edge, so it'll probably get a lot more wear and tear on this side here. And I'll even tear chunks of this out. And this is easier to do when the wood is wet and it looks really good. Change the angle of your knife. Tear into that wood. Don't be afraid. Just get in there and make a mess. I think I'm going to tear a chunk out right there where the door just couldn't handle it anymore. And I'm going to make a big tear between these planks. I'm going to do this until, you know, I get kind of the look and the feel that I want. You could even not do it to one of the panels and paint it in a way so it looks like it's a newer piece. And let's go to this back side here. I'm going to tear this up a little bit on this side too, because it doesn't always transfer over. So we're going to just get in here and just tear some stuff up. Like I said, if you overdo it, you know what? It's wood. It's cheap. You can make another one. But you know what? Try not to, because the story you're going to tell with the one that's messed up might be cooler than any story that you can make up. You know, the people just assume and infer. Now I've got all kinds of fuzzies here. When this dries out more, I'll be able to scrape those off, add a little more paint. I'm going to kind of tear up my door frame a little bit here while it's wet, because it's just easier. Get some wear and tear on this door so it's not so pristine. And think about what's going to come down on it, where people are going to handle the door. That's where your wear is going to happen. Later on, when we're weathering these pieces, we're going to think about where water gathers in all these different sections. I'm just going to tear these fibers out here, and I'm making a right proper mess, and that's good. Kind of just don't want to chew up this wood. That's the advantage of working with this material, is obviously it's organic, and so you get a nice organic feel. So that nice clean door I started with is starting to look a little more the part that I want to tell. Now I'm kind of getting in here with a blunter tool, tweezers in this case. And while this wood is wet, I'm going to show you another thing that I do. I'm trying to make these like really short videos, but I keep thinking of stuff I want to show. So again, at the risk of that glue coming apart, I have this kind of awl. I don't know what this is. This is for clay. I have no idea where I got it. It just kind of appeared in my collection. But what's really cool about this is now I have a door, and it has been nailed together. So this is the first time I'm going to do this to the wood, and it'll close up because it's all wet. When I come back later and do it again, it'll be more receptive. Usually I do this when I'm painting black, And then those little nail holes just kind of pop into view. And it's kind of hard to see all these planks now because everything's all swollen. But that's okay. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. That just means the guy nailed the nail in the wrong spot, right? Again, going to my Bob Ross voice. So just initially, it's really hard to see until I get the black wash in there, but you see kind of the initial nail holes going in to this piece. And I'm just going to put like a nail, single nail. I like doing doubles on horizontal pieces and then singles on semi-vertical pieces like this. And I won't do all the boards, just enough to kind of get it attached. And again, come back in here and put in the double row on each of the boards because they use 2 nails. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. And I know I'm babbling, and this is going to make my video way too long, but this is part of the process that I go through to make my wood look the way I do, and I literally just kind of tear it up. And I'm probably going to tear up the top corners here because I think all this looks too pristine as well, and that door is going to rub on that top beam. So anyway, I'm going to continue doing this until I'm kind of happy with it, but this is kind of a snapshot as to what we're going to be doing a little bit later until we come back. Okay, we're going to stop right here for the day. I need to let all these pieces dry, let that glue dry and get strong again before we start really adding more washes. We're going to work really, really wet and to get the detail we're after. But we started with a material that was this color right here, and we painted it, and this is where we are right now. And where we're hoping to go is here. So tomorrow, when I make the next video, after this is dried, we're going to go from here to here. We should be able to finish up the paint on all this wood, but even already, by comparison of this, you can see how much better this piece has gotten. And we are nowhere near finished. This will darken up a little bit when it dries, and it'll allow that wood grain to pop through, and then when we start laying on the washes, we'll start getting an effect that looks a lot like this. So tomorrow, the next video will be here. So until then, I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, if you got any good information out of this video, please subscribe to the channel, give me a like, have your friends come in and check me out and have them subscribe as well. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Jeff Perryman, and this is the 28mm